When people hear lawyer, they picture a Rolex wearing genius striding out of a Manhattan skyscraper, briefcase in one hand, settlement check in the other. But here's the real story. Most lawyers are just debt ridden, overworked, caffeine saturated meat calculators billing their souls away in 6-minute increments. Let's kill the fantasy right now. The legal profession is a pyramid, and unless your last name is Kennedy or Rothschild, you're probably not sitting at the top. It all starts with a lie. Law is a stable, high paying career path. That's true if you're the 1%. For everyone else, it's more like paying 200k for the privilege of crying into your instant noodles at 3 a.m. while reviewing merge documents you don't understand. Law school is marketed like an Ivy League Hogwarts, but in reality, it's a debt trap disguised as prestige. You get in, you sign the dotted line on a six-figure loan, and then they throw you into a 3-year academic hazing ritual full of Latin phrases, outdated case law, and professors who think it's still 1957. Meanwhile, you're told you'll graduate and walk into a 190k salary, which sounds great until you learn that only the top 10% of students at the top 10% of law schools get those offers. The rest? Good luck scraping together 60k at a regional firm doing wills and divorces for clients who pay in Starbucks gift cards. Here's what your first year in law actually looks like. Doing document review on a pharmaceutical merger that makes you question both capitalism and your will to live. You're terrified of making a mistake because one typo could cost the firm $4 million. And worst of all, you work in 70 to 80 hours a week and still too broke to Uber home. Now, let's talk numbers. There are over 1.3 million lawyers in the US alone. Roughly 20,000 of them, just 1 to 2%, make massive bank as partners in elite law firms, general counsels for megacorps, or celebrity litigators. Everyone else, welcome to the middle to bottom of the food chain. Decent income, terrible hours, questionable job satisfaction, and a constant threat of burnout. But let's zoom in. The elite lawyers don't just practice law, they monetize it. They are big law rainmakers, bringing in millions in billables, corporate sharks handling billion-dollar mergers and hostile takeovers, litigation snipers who don't even blink at charging $1,500 an hour. They're not working harder, they're working dirtier, louder, and smarter. And they've got three main advantages. Pedigree. Think Harvard, Yale, Stanford, no exceptions. Connections. Daddy's Rolodex opens more doors than any resume. Cold-blooded will to win. These are the people who smile when firing 30% of the firm. For the rest of the profession, it's trench warfare. Solo practitioners grinding away on landlord disputes, public defenders saving lives on minimum wage, immigration attorneys drowning in bureaucracy and burnouts, and don't even get me started on the LinkedIn crowd, helping lawyers build six-figure agencies, law school to influence a pipeline. Here's how I made 80k selling legal templates. It's not law, it's survival cosplay. And let's just say it, law isn't a career, it's a pyramid scheme with a diploma. The top of the pyramid bills $1,200 an hour to advise on mergers they didn't read. The middle grinds in silence and pretends they're making it. And the bottom, they post motivational quotes on Instagram and tell themselves, it's not about the money. And maybe it's not, but if you're watching this, you probably wanted it to be. And if you're still watching and haven't rage quit your law degree yet, congrats, you've got the stamina of a partner in training. Smash that like button if this hit a nerve, and subscribe if you're ready to find out what really goes on behind the mahogany doors of big law. So, who actually wins this rigged game? You know those skyscraper firms with names like Smythe and Smythe LLP that sound like they're only hiring people named Blake? That's Big Law, the corporate meat grinder where a first year associate makes 225k but also signs away their ability to ever attend a family gathering again. Let's be clear, Big Law is not just a job, it's a blood sport where the currency is billable hours and sleep is for the weak. Big law firms don't care about your hopes and dreams, they care about how many hours you can bill, how many mistakes you can make under pressure, and how quickly you'll crack under the weight of 3 a.m. email chains with 16 partners CC'd. And you don't just waltz into big law, you need the golden trifecta. Top law school, top of your class, top tip internships. Preferably with a senator or a guy who owns a yacht. If you're lucky enough to land a job, congratulations. You can now spend your 20s and early 30s chugging cold brew, drafting boilerplate contracts, and praying your liver holds up until partnership review. Making partner is the ultimate brass ring. But here's what no one tells you. You're not just expected to be a brilliant legal mind, You also have to become a rainmaker. Translation: bring in clients, make the firm money, don't embarrass anyone at corporate golf events. If you fail, you're out. If you succeed, you're rewarded with even more work, more responsibility, and the soul sucking pressure of maintaining your book of business. Oh, and the money? Sure, partners at top firms can pull 1 mil to 5 mil plus per year, but also divorces, Xanax scripts, and the creeping existential dread of being 47 and unsure if your kids know your middle name. Now, let's talk about the actual top of the food chain. These are the lawyers who bill like monsters, settle billion-dollar disputes, and occasionally get name dropped in the New York Times or Succession. These aren't just legal experts, they're strategic weapons. They know when to negotiate, when to threaten, and when to burn a company to the ground using nothing but strongly worded email. Some examples: litigation killers who can out argue anyone in a room full of Harvard grads, corporate deal gods who close merger and acquisition deals faster than you finish a Netflix episode, boutique firm legends with niche power. Think patient litigation, pharma class actions, international arbitration. Their edge isn't legal theory, it's influence, access, and being willing to destroy you on a Sunday night. Then, welcome to the wild west of the legal profession. Family lawyers, heroes of chaos. One day it's a custody battle, the next it's a dude trying to get visitation rights for his parrot. Public defenders, literal saints working 70 plus cases at once for a salary that barely covers their law school interest payments. And solo attorneys, running their practice out of a Starbucks, advertising on Facebook, and doing everything from divorce to dog bite defense. They do real work, they help real people, but they're not getting rich, and they know it. And then we have the newest mutation in the lawyer gene pool, the LinkedIn lawyerpreneur. You've seen them, selling courses like how to start a 6-figure contract template business, flexing their 10K days from coaching calls with other burnout lawyers, posting inspirational quotes like, your network is your net worth. They've realized that being a lawyer isn't as profitable as selling the dream of being a lawyer. And hey, no judgment. If you can make more money pretending to practice law than actually practicing it, that's just capitalism doing its thing. But let's call it what it is: legal grifting with a ring light. By this point, you might be thinking, okay, so being a lawyer sucks unless you're a sociopath or just a trust fund baby. Is there any hope? But let's talk about the final stage of this journey: the exit plan. Because whether you're billing $200 an hour for prenups or $2,000 an hour for Fortune 500 boardroom warfare, the ending is often the same: burnout, existential crisis, and a sudden urge to move to Bali and start a YouTube channel about productivity. Here's the thing: the law is a seductive liar. It gives you just enough money, status, and validation to keep you on the hamster wheel. You went to law school to fight injustice, or at least buy a Tesla. But now you spend 12 hours a day fixing the grammar and contracts you secretly hope never get signed. You dream about filing cabinets. Your sleep is interrupted by the phantom sound of Slack notifications. You start using per my last email in casual conversations with your spouse. And yet, you stay. Why? Because leaving means admitting it wasn't worth it. It means walking away from the one identity you worked so damn hard to build, and that's terrifying. Let's be real: law is one of the most expensive traps ever built. You spend 6 figures on school, you spend your youth chasing partner, and when you finally make it, you're surrounded by other people too miserable and overworked to celebrate with. The 1% of lawyers who get rich, the real power players, they aren't smarter. They're just more connected, more aggressive, and often more willing to trade their soul for status. They bill by the hour, but they live by the client. They're not in the business of justice. They're in the business of winning, even if the client is a tobacco conglomerate or the guy who invented price gouging insulin pens. Because even with all the stress, the debt, the hours, law gives you one thing other careers can't match: certainty. You don't need to invent an app. You don't have to grow an audience. You don't even have to be interesting. You just have to show up, grind, and know how to not piss off a partner. Do that long enough, and you'll make a living. Maybe even a decent one. But will you live? Well, that's another question. Every now and then, someone does escape. They write a book, they launch a legal tech startup, they become a TikTok lawyer, they move to Montana and open a coffee shop called Objection Overruled. These people figured out what no one else tells you in law school: that the real value of becoming a lawyer isn't the job, it's the skills you pick up along the way. arguing, negotiating, reading people, surviving meetings where nobody actually says what they mean. Those skills, they're portable. You can take them into business, politics, content creation, hell, even dating. Seriously, if you can argue with a senior partner while being 60 hours sleep deprived, you can handle Tinder. So, where does that leave us? In an industry where 1% of lawyers make obscene amounts of money, 40% are financially stable but emotionally hollow, and 59% are stuck doing $99 wills on Fiverr while drowning in debt. Law isn't just a career, it's a funnel. A very expensive, prestige coated funnel that turns ambition into burnout. If you're in the 1%, congrats. If you're not, maybe it's time to stop billing in 6-minute increments and start building something you own. If this video slapped you awake harder than a 3-liter final schedule, smash that like button. And if you're ready to rethink how power actually works, hit subscribe. We've got plenty more uncomfortable truths coming your way.